this special meeting of the International Falls Economic Development Authority to order. Please note all commissioners are present and accounted for. First thing, consider for approval the COVID stopgap deferred loan program. City Administrator, you want to take the ball and run with it on this one?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to advise you that we prepared, we had talked about a loan term sheet before, and so I've included that in your packet of materials. And in the original packet, you would have got that term sheet. And again, it shows 4 different loan options. We're trying to keep this as simple and as basic as possible. So there's a loan amount of $2,400 payable over a 24-month term, $4,800 payable over a 24-month term. The reason for that is to try and keep the monthly amount of $100 or $200 as simple as straightforward as possible. There's also 2 other options. Loan C, which is $7,200, and Loan D, which is a $9,600 principal amount. Those will be payable over a 48-month term. And again, the monthly amount would be $150 and $200 respectively. All those loans would be a 0% loan. We would start the repayment on or about January 30th of 2022. That'd be about 30 months now, so that's why it's considered a deferred loan. No repayments have to start until January of 22, and so that's why we've got a deferred loan program. Again, for simplicity, we'll create a payment book with payment slips that the persons that have loans can just include, mail back with their payment, or provide for us, whatever means they use to make repayment. And I've included a late payment penalty fee, which you see in there. And so that was the term sheet that we put together. What's new is we've included a loan agreement that I had an attorney at Taft prepare, and they were very complimentary of the initiative that we were taking to provide some assistance to our local businesses. So they drafted this. There's a few blank spaces in here where we would put the principal amount of the loan, the repayment term, and the amount that has to be paid. Fairly straightforward. One of the questions I raised and had a discussion with today with that attorney is my concern has been with these deferred loans, fairly simple admin process, and that application process is included here is what would we look at for security on the loans? And typically when you're providing public monies to private parties, you would have some form of security. I was hoping that we could use special assessments for repayment of the loans. I was informed, and I did my own research, and I could not find any authorization to be able to use special assessments to recover unpaid loan fees. So there's essentially 3 different means for doing that. One would be to have a UCC, or a Uniform Commercial Code, filing with that. And with that, you would disclose and identify some equipment that would be held as collateral in the event that you defaulted on the loan. And I did include just a blank form that the attorney had provided for me with your packet of information. Second option is to do a second mortgage on the property, where we would have we'd prepare a second mortgage, and the document or the form that would take would be prepared by the city attorney, Mr. Schmoen, and we'd have a relatively nominal fee to prepare that basic form. It'd be a couple $100 of his time to do that, and then we would have people. There'd be a mortgage registration tax. That amount is about $2.30 per $1,000 of loan issued. And so that would be something closer to, it'd be less than $2.30 when our maximum is the $9,600 loan. And then there's a recording fee for the mortgage of $46. Now, Steve suggested that could just be we could just provide, we could recover those expenses by providing the payment to the persons receiving the loans, the loan amount less those 2 fees. But that's one option, and we can discuss. And then the third would be just filing a claim in small claims court. And in my conversations with Steve this morning or afternoon, I think it was his opinion that the second mortgage would probably be the best route if the council wants to require some kind of security for repayment of these loans. So with that, I think I just leave it with you. There's, depending on what route we take, we might want to make a few alterations to the application form. This application form is actually one that the attorney provided for me, and it was one based on one that the city of Shoreview is using for some of their loan programs. So, any questions?
I guess the only thing that I have is that I would like to see this implemented ASAP. So as fast as we can get this out. Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns on that?
A question.
Sure.
The 3 or 4 alternatives you had for repayment if it was default, now this would basically cover also if a business closed its doors and said, geez, I just can't make it anymore?
Well, there's a couple different scenarios, and that's one of the issues is that if I'm a business owner and operator, but I'm renting my space, a second mortgage, I don't know how you file a second mortgage on the business space if you're renting it. Now, perhaps a second mortgage could be applied to their residential property, and that would be a question I'd probably direct to Steve, but that would be one of the issues. I think small claims court is relatively easy from a fee standpoint, but there's lots of people, as I understand it, that would win in small claims court, but the ability to recover the whatever you've been successful in trying to get approved in small claims court becomes more difficult.
Very much so.
So the second mortgage is relatively easy to proceed with, and it has, generally people have some equity in the real estate, so the city could ultimately be able to draw and have that as collateral for the loan.
Okay.
I guess my only thought on the second mortgage piece is you look at a lot of these don't own the building that they're in. So then they would have to take it out on their homes, which is an option, but I just feel like the chance of default is probably pretty low. I mean, if you take a look through here, a lot of these businesses are pretty established, and small claims would be my opinion would be the way to go. I'm not a lawyer, but just looking at them, there aren't a whole lot of brand spanking new businesses on here. And another thing that the council has to consider is the fact that every single one of these has a license through the city. So if you're defaulting, and there's some sort of license here. So if you're defaulting on your loan, are you going to be able to get a license to continue business? It's just a thought.
And provided our ordinance has that and requires that you be current with all payments and everything, that does offer some leverage with the persons that might receive a loan. Our goal is to keep it as simple and as straightforward as possible for everybody. And I like to think that everybody's going to move forward in good faith, but sometimes just with the business climate the way it is, I mean, some people just fail. And I just think with public monies and the goal to recover those monies eventually through this deferred loan program, that we need to have some security in place to move forward.
I did reach out to Paul Nevenin today, and I kind of asked him his thoughts on this program, and his issue was he doesn't think, and I kind of agree, a lot of businesses are going to take it. I mean, they're not taking out more debt. They're looking for I don't want to use bailout as a negative, but they're looking for bailout money they don't have to pay back. That's the key to these businesses. So in the short term, yeah, this is going to be able to help them to get through it a little bit, but then even when times get back to what we refer to as normal, they have an additional fee, or they're going to be paying on that business even longer. So there's some downside, but that, again, isn't for us to make that decision. That's for the business owners to make that decision. The only other thing that I would comment to, and the chair kind of alluded to it, I would want to make sure that all of the businesses that we look at doing this with at least have current licenses in the city, because there are some in there that I know have not filed for licenses in 2021 yet. So that would be a concern I have, to make sure that they're at least filing for business next year and they're not looking at getting out.
Sure.
There are three that don't have a business license, single centers, there aren't licenses.
Okay.
But
Everyone else.
Steve, looks like you got something to say.
Oh, you're asking me for input?
no, you just looked like you were in thought.
it's only you on the screen, so it just looked like you had something to say.
Well, I'm always deep in thought. I think the comment about being licensed, it'd be real simple to add to this loan agreement that if they were in default, more than a certain period of time, that any licenses they have with the city could be suspended. In terms of security, whether you want to do that or not is strictly up to you. I mean, Uniform Commercial Code, I really don't think is very practical. Most of these businesses, a lot of them, if they have some bank financing, first thing the banks do is tie up personal property and equipment in a UCC statement. I just think that would end up being a hassle. Small claims court is basically unsecured. I mean, you just that's your remedy. If they default, you could take them to small claims court in the end to get a judgment, and you can determine you may or may not want to proceed with small claims court. As we've discovered with some of these other debts to the city over the years, the small claims court filing fee, you're just throwing good money after bad, because you're never going to collect it. A second mortgage, maybe it's, it'd be relatively simple to put in place. Again, you'd have the issue of somebody's just leasing their building rather than owning it. And theoretically, some of those people may not even own a home. But to me, that the second mortgage is the one that provides the best protection for the city at a relatively small cost. Once we've developed the mortgage document, it would just be a standard, document. My office wouldn't even need to be involved. Just kind of a fill in the blank, put the legal description in there, and then you file it, record it, and maybe you'd want to, just have a flat $100 processing fee that would be collected up front, and so when the loan proceeds are dispersed, you would just disperse it less that $100 or $75 or whatever number you want to come up with, and that would just reduce how much is outlaid to them, and then it would be there if you ever needed it. I guess that's the route that I think I'd recommend. And if somebody, didn't own a home and didn't own their building, maybe what you need is, maybe require special, have it come before the city council to determine if you want to make the loan under those circumstances, or if there's some other form of security that could be provided. Or you just go without security. For the most part, like you say, these are businesses that have been in the community for a while. But who knows, after this COVID, who's going to survive and who isn't? It's going to be tough for everybody.
Thank you. So how do we proceed?
I guess I would move to accept the loan agreement as kind of outlined that we have in here. The one, I would move to do that. I would want to make sure that the businesses have a license with the city or to do business unless it is
Sure.
like a gym that doesn't have a license. And then if they cannot get a mortgage, then we have to have a special EDA meeting to approve that.
Suggestion, could we add default of, or revocation of license if in default?
Yes, word for
Okay.
word. That is my motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Did you get all that? Okay, we get it.
Yeah, I'm getting it. Ooh.
What was that, Ken?
Yeah, I'm getting it too. So revocation of license upon default. How many days in default do you want? Is there any particular standard? 60?
3 months, 3 payments,
90?
90 days.
90 days, 3 payments.
And that was part of my motion too.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Briggs. Any further discussion?
I was just wondering if I was going to have more that I had to add to my motion.
Hearing no further discussion, those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Yay.
Opposed? There is none. It passes 5-0. Next item on the agenda is to approve the $20,000 expenditure to Rainy River Community College for the healthcare initiative.
So move.
Moved by by Commissioner Briggs. Second by Commissioner Buller. Discussion.
For the 2020, right?
2020, yes.
Okay.
For
Yep.
2020.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, call a question.
Aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. Any other business?
I would like to just bring up one thing. Just something to think about. I did talk to Joe about this, but it would be my intention at our next EDA meeting to make the recommendation for our new city councilor to be the EDA president. I've spoke with Mike about it, I spoke with you about it, and then he would also represent us on KEDA. So that will be a motion that I'll be making in the next month. So if you guys, if anyone wants to go for it please, let's have that discussion at some point. But Mike is very interested in that, and I think he would do well in that role, so.
Any further? This meeting is adjourned.